Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Collector Showcase. This is just for anybody watching back or anybody watching for the first time, just an episodic series I do where I interview personalities, people in the business of collectibles, just overall people I find very interesting. So today we've got a very special guest. He comes on, you kind of dip in and out of YouTube every now and then when it comes to interviews and stuff like that. But Mr. Nat Turner, CEO of PSA. Thanks so much, Nat, for coming on. I appreciate you getting in front of the community like this. How's the week going?
Oh, good. Just in the office.
Yeah.
Like always.
Another day. Yeah. Pre-stream, Nat comes in and he's already got cards in hand, which I find is a good side of everything, right? You were peeling a card, I think, as soon as you got there. He's got top loaders and everything.
What I was doing, I was going through, I found a storage box of cards that opened 15 years ago. And I'm going through, I'm like, oh my God, there's like a refractor I didn't pick up. I'm doing all these sets, so
yeah. I've watched a few different videos talking about like your collection and things like that. And I definitely want to be able to talk about that at some point during this because it's sort of amazing. I think a lot of people think of people who are maybe executives in the collectible space or think that it's maybe, over corporatized and things like that. You've always been someone I found very interesting because first off, you're very active, like in collecting yourself and actually chasing sets. And that didn't start after PSA, which I find like very, very interesting. But I guess, kind of before we get into questions, things like that, maybe if you don't mind taking a couple minutes and just giving the people a idea of who you are, what you do, who's Nat Turner?
So I'm a big card collector. Started when I was really young, like probably 5 years old or so, in baseball cards. So this would have been like 90, 91. And really never stopped collecting. Probably picked up basketball card collecting in 96. I was in Houston, as we talked about before. When they won those 2 championships, I kind of got interested in basketball. Mm-hmm. And Kobe's rookie year, although it wasn't really Kobe, it was more AI at the, when he came out. Kobe kind of got bigger in the dunk contest and all that afterward. But I started collecting basketball cards, mostly Rockets. Like Steve Francis in 99 was a big PC guy for me. And then did a lot of like shows, like little like, hotel ballroom card shows, like starting in probably 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, through high school, like where I would set up in the Houston area. Traveled a little bit, did like a show in Florida, Orlando, I think. I remember because like a hurricane hit while I was there.
Everybody's holding their inventory, like please.
Well, we were in this giant hotel, so no one was really that worried, but it was just you couldn't leave. What else? Tech entrepreneur. So like I know computers really well. That's like a generalization, but I know, I know how to like build software. So bought a bunch of different companies or started them in the last 10, 15 years. And then when Collectors was a public company in 2020, put a group of people together to originally just wanted to help them, from the side. So, help them with software, just so many things they needed help with, I thought, and offered help. And then became clear that, the only way to really, drastically improve things there was to control it and own it, and then be able to do things like, hire 150 software engineers or, that kind of thing. So, but now I'm CEO of Collectors.
Yeah. I love your backstory, especially going in from, I'm in SaaS, tech and stuff like that. So I meet a lot of people who are kind of in those industries, but they tend to kind of stay in a lane, from my experience. I mean, I know that obviously being able to build software and things like that can apply to literally any company in today's, realm. But, with someone who was collecting, I mean, and doing shows back in the 90s, I mean, people hear that now and they're like, wait, no, car shows just happened. Like CollectCon and Comic-Con just happened. No, like you were doing this like in the super hotel lobby and doing that grind, back then. Was the goal to always be involved, I guess, somewhat in collectibles, or was Collectors just, hey, oh my gosh, this is a great opportunity. This is, the industry leader in this. I definitely want to be a part of this. I guess, how did you go from that transition, I guess, from, the other companies that you founded and purchased?
Okay. So card collecting is so important in my life. I'll tell you, like for 10 years, 15 years. So when I started companies. I starting companies. Like this would have been late high school. I made a very conscious decision to not do anything in trading cards because it was so important as a hobby. And I wanted it to be a fun hobby at all times. Like I spend, I kid you not, probably 3 to 4 hours a day every night on my personal collection. And I have since probably 1996.
Wow.
Like without stopping. High school, college, like everything. Every company I've started, like 3+ hours every day. And so to me, I was like, I don't want that to be, messed
You don't want
with.
the passion to burn out because of the financial side.
And like people would pitch me companies and ideas, and it was just like, absolutely not. Like this is a, it's like, family and business. Like I just don't mix the two or whatever. And then in 2020, COVID hit. And I've said this somewhere before. I was just like, at home, my mom and dad took my wife and I and our kids in because we were in New York, and we were lucky enough to be able to relocate out for 6 months or so while everything was going down. And then my mom wheeled my childhood cards into the guest room, that we were staying in. It was basically like, thank God you're here. It's about time you take these off of my conscience.
As every mother does. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, but I went through, I'm like, oh my gosh, these were my childhood cards. Like I had, they were organized in my childhood handwriting by player and by team. And like, I had all my Steve Francis cards in there. And like, I remember all the inserts that I had pulled. Most of those cards, like when I went to college, it was like a time capsule. They had just been put in this giant, like, when I say the collection, it was like you could fill up an entire like storage unit with this,
Oh my gosh.
like the most expensive card in there. Cause I was dealing, like I was at shows and stuff. So like I had taken all my nice cards with me to college. Like LeBron's. I started buying LeBron's in 2003. I went to college in 2004. So I had like some LeBron stuff. Like none of that was there. This was all the like base cards and sets and like, lower end stuff. But like I found like a couple $100 cards. But more importantly, it rekindled my passion for trading cards in like just a whole different way. Even though I was still spending all that time on it, it was just like there's like this nostalgic, like awesome moment.
Well, I think that's what grabs all of us, right? Like we all, I think I couldn't tell you how many people I talked to that, especially with Pokemon specifically, which is kind of this primary audience, is I found my old childhood collection. My mom tried to throw it away. I told her keep it forever. And then I found it like 20 years later, so there is something special about being able to see something that when you were, a very, very young age, saying like, oh, that's what I felt like. It's almost like you recapture that memory, right?
Well, the point is of all that is I decided then and there, I had this epiphany. I was trying to decide what to do next. I was like, what do I love the most other than, family? I was like, oh, trading cards. I was like holding them every day. And, so anyway, I decided right then and there, I was like, I want to do trading cards. And I didn't decide, I didn't want to start a new company. I was kind of, didn't have the energy at the time to do that. And it was like, all right, what's the most important company to me in trading cards? And as a set collector and as a collector of 90s stuff, which has a lot of authenticity issues and whatever, it's PSA by like a mile.
Right. So I guess when you wanted to, kind of go that avenue and say like, hey, I want to be involved with PSA, I want to help them. You talk about like wanting to be able to take control of that, which makes sense. I think we can all see kind of what happens when you put like a very, you prioritize efficiency and kind of the software, and you guys push the envelope more than any other company in the market. By far, obviously, that. Was the expectation to be able to come in and lead that company, or was it just, hey, I'm going to help them out and hopefully something comes from it? And
no, it was
okay.
We had a CEO in place who's an awesome guy, Joe Orlando, who's now at Heritage. And what the plan was he was the CEO for 6 months or so post. And I was going to be the exec chairman, which is effectively a full-time role. But then after 6 months or so, I think Joe was ready. He had been running hard. I think he worked there for over 20 years. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. He was ready for a change, and I was full-time already basically. So it was just an obvious.
It was an easy transition.
Yeah, it wasn't. There was not really a big, day-to-day change in responsibility or routine or anything.
Right. How does that feel for like a grown Nat to think like, as you're a kid, you're doing collectibles, you're doing trading cards, you're doing all of that. Was there any sort of like feeling or anything when you actually like, hey, I'm actually leading the charge with the biggest industry brand?
Honestly, like I get asked that, like it's still a job. Like I still get yelled at by customers. I still have to worry about employees and, like think about it, all the things that, when you work or run a company, it's no different. The only time I really feel that is when I go to the National and I am a child for like 6 days with the biggest smile on my face. Because I get to interact in like mass quantity with like-minded people and see the coolest stuff that like comes out of the woodwork in that 5 or 6 day period, which doesn't really happen at other shows. Or like I'll go to I go to shops. I've been going to shops my whole life, but like going like so there's no difference there. But as with regards to like running PSA, or running collectors, I should say, being at the National is where I get like that heavy dose of, I can't believe this is my job.
That fills the bar for the year, and then you can go back and do it again.
But I get micro doses of it when I'm in the office. Like today, like once a day, something will, like I'll get pinged on Slack and someone's like, you got to come see this card that, got submitted. Or like the guy's in the lobby, he wants to say hi. And I go out, I'm like, oh, holy crap. Like this is like, like that happens at least once a day. But like at the National, it's 700 times.
All over the place. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, no, I love the journey. I love hearing, your personal take on being someone who's actually in seat and leading all of this. I kind of want to transition over a little bit to talking PSA in 2025. There's been so many things that have happened in the last, let's call it 6 months, from, the international shipments and everything being, obviously halted and things like that. Obviously your guys' volume is huge, at this point. You guys have had to really, work on that, internally to be able to get submissions in and out. I guess my question would be, with kind of these headwinds that we're facing, especially at the beginning of this year and currently, when it comes to adopting new ways to kind of work around this, how are you guys doing? How are you guys able to basically kind of take these on and come out the other side actually successful? Because it seems like right now, other grading companies currently, they almost kind of hope you guys get too busy, I guess I'll say, because they tend to see obviously a lot more volume submission based on, turnaround times and things like that. So how are you guys handling, for example, like the international shipments being kind of turned off at this point? I mean, are you guys planning anything? Are you waiting for basically something to change? I guess, what does that look like? Because there are a few people that watch this channel that are, international. I think I might've seen a couple of questions coming already about that. What are you guys doing to kind of help facilitate getting those submissions in again?
On the international side?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the trick is, obviously it's because of the tariffs. People, I don't think fully appreciate the risk where, it's actually not let's say it's 25% tariff. It's not a 25% increase on your grading fee. It's actually applied to the value of the card you're sending. So
wow.
It's like, if you get caught, like if you're sending it to us or another grading company, I don't think the other companies have fully been transparent with what the risks there are to the submitters, because they're clearly not going to eat those costs, the grading companies.
Yeah, of course not.
So what we have in Japan is an office you can go to and submit, and be graded locally. The card never has to leave Japan. In Canada, we have an office in Toronto and in Halifax, moving to Toronto, that you can ship to. And then that office, because it's our employees, can send to our office in New Jersey or California. Cards are graded and the tariffs don't apply. So we have a solution for Canada. In China, we're going to be doing multiple grading events per year that allow us to bring our team to local China, like probably Shanghai, and get, a bunch of cards graded for customers in that week period. We're opening an office in Germany with actual grading.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So EU, maybe that's new news. I don't know.
It's hard to follow it. You guys are always doing new stuff, so it's hard to follow it. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. We just opened an office co-located with Fanatics in London. So, we're building basically international submission hubs or local grading. Our dream is to have local grading in China and Toronto and in Europe. Right now, we just have grading in country in US in Japan, but soon we'll have it in Germany as well. And we'll have submission centers in Shanghai. We already have submission centers in Shanghai. I should have said we're bringing our grading team there for 7 days, a couple times a year, but we already have an office in Shanghai that you can bring your cards to, and they will ship it to the United States. And then London, as I said, a submission center. So those two things are, how submission centers and local grading, or how, I mean, it's going to take time. I will say I'm a very optimistic person. I do believe the tariff, trade war, whatever you want to call it, is I think we're going to look back. I don't know how long it's going to last, but it's not going to be forever. And we're going to look back and laugh, like how ridiculous it was, and it'll be behind us at some point. And I mean, I just have a positive view of it. It won't be like this forever.
Well, you have to be. I mean, I think if you kind of doom and gloom it, I mean, that I would be nervous if anyone leading a company like yours would be like so reactive to that, where it's like, oh my gosh, we've got to change the whole way we do business, and things like that. But
like in Japan, I'll tell you, like 90, I forget, it's a huge percentage of the cards we grade from Japan, people send to our Japanese office, so our Japan office. So we know that, like, if you have an option in country, you prefer that versus shipping to the United States.
Right.
So, like, we just have to solve that in China and Canada, our other big markets, which we will.
Well, it's great to hear that you guys are, you're already obviously working on it. And that's a good way. It's like, hey, we'll just have a place there, instead of trying to force a logistical way. Cause I've seen some creative ideas and discussions of trying to get around this, I guess, to get it to the US, but it's,
well, we see people like, I don't know how they're doing it. We don't ask, but like they show up to, we're seeing more cards show up in our offices in the United States all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So,
they're finding some way. Who knows? But you're like, hey, the cards are here.
I mean, we don't know. I mean, it's a submission in the United States, but we're not encouraging that or doing anything of the sort. But people are, I think, trying to get creative. But I mean, if you send through an office of ours in an ex-US country, like in Toronto, for example, the tariffs don't apply. So people are taking advantage of that. So we've seen our submissions go up for, in our submission centers outside the United States for this reason. First,
have you guys
on your own, you get hit with them.
Yeah. Have you guys seen, I mean, obviously it's probably hard to know the exact number and all of that, but I mean, I'm assuming submissions have continued to go up. I mean, with you guys, it doesn't seem like there's been any lack of people submitting to you guys, or are we not able to see it differently?
Yeah, I mean, we've been getting a significantly more cards per day than we're able to handle since probably November or December. We've unfortunately had to raise price, I think, twice now, only because we needed to suppress the number of cards coming in. There's no other reason. I mean, we would much rather grade more cards at a lower price for set collectors and the sort, but we pushed our turnaround times on the low end out as well. Like, it's just we've been through this, like COVID. This is nowhere close to what happened during COVID, to be clear.
Right.
We were getting almost 100,000 cards a day during COVID, and we were able to grade 22,000. Nowhere close to that. Like, we're getting fewer cards than that, and we're able to grade 60 to 70,000 cards a day now. So we've 3x'd our capacity, and but our backlog was growing. It's not redlined at all like it was during COVID. So we're able to balance the demand, the incoming cards, through pricing and turnaround times much more intelligently than we were back then, and anticipate it more. Pokemon, I'll be honest though, in January, I know this is part of the channel and the audience, the prismatic
evolutions
caught us a bit by surprise. Well, we knew we were planning as early as November, December on a spike in Pokemon submissions because of prismatic evolutions. It was like 3 times what we actually expected.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, but like, it's great. Like, the collect that hobby is strong. Like, we love to see it. But those spikes, in a business like ours that has humans and process and experts involved, it's not as nimble, and that's fine. Like, it is what it is. And so you have to, do fewer specials and just kind of manage it as best you can. And we got a little further out on our turnaround times than we'd like, which is why we pushed them. And then pricing, now we've balanced the incoming cards to our capacity so that we can work through the backlog. But yeah,
well, you sort of have to, I mean, because everyone's going to complain about more expensive prices, but ultimately, I mean, it's supply and demand, right? Like you've got to find some way to be able to slow down the amount of submissions you get, at least. And it's not even that much of a price increase. I think you guys went up maybe what, like $2 or something like 14%.
That. So,
yeah. So, I mean, it's a good way to, allow people to actually keep getting their cards graded versus waiting. We don't want to be a year out or I don't think you guys are going to shut down. Like COVID happened. I went through that.
No, we're not. We're nowhere.
Oh my gosh.
No, we're nowhere near that. Yeah. Again, our capacity to grade is 3 times or more. That's actually not even including like Japan. So Japan, we're grading, we have a fairly large team in Japan, Tokyo, grading. So we've not only tripled our capacity in the United States, we've added Japan. And we'll add Germany soon. And yeah, I mean, we're so much stronger of a company and of a grading platform than we were 4 years ago. Like I said, the one mistake we made was we under forecasted Prismatic Evolution's submissions. So I will say on pricing though, a lot of these Pokemon cards, especially, and ultramodern sports cards, the low end of those, people need 10s and 9s, and the value of those cards just aren't, then maybe they're $20, $30, $40, that spending $15 versus $18 really does matter with the grading. And we've seen that, and we'd rather those cards get graded. We don't want to grade fewer cards at 18. We better grade more cards at 50. So we really want to, and we know that that's causing a lot of people to either use alternative grading services, which is fine, it's their prerogative, or to wait until our pricing or we run specials. And it's just not a great experience for customers who like uniformity in their collections, and they need liquidity from their cards to be sitting on them. So we do want to get back. We did this like we promised this years ago. We said, no, we're going to be lowering. I mean, we were doing $25 pricing at one point right after COVID, even higher.
Yeah.
And we got back to like $15, $16, which is, our goal is to get back there again. We've done these 2 price increases just to meet our demand, but we'll be there.
Do you think, so one thing I remember during the COVID years, which actually was kind of always a fun event, is the PSA lottery to be able to get.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was a necessity. It wasn't for fun. We had to do it. Yeah.
And it wasn't for fun, but it was like an enjoyable event. I'm like, did you get one? Like we would all have like little Discord. Yeah. Oh, were they really?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. People were on social being like, I got a slot, send me your cards. Yeah. I mean, that was just a hilarious moment where like, I'm actually glad we're not in that situation as a hobby, because it was clearly unhealthy. The prices, the secondary prices of cards. I mean, that's back when like Zion Prism Silver, I know it's a Pokemon channel, but like, these like, honestly, like a card that should be worth $40 was like $2,000.
Yeah.
And like everyone knew it. If you knew anything about cards, you're like, this is ridiculous. And the reason is we just had this massive influx of people who I would argue weren't that educated on the hobby, who were just
new money.
It just wasn't a healthy. It was like a meme coin thing.
Yeah.
So
Pokemon has gone through that like.
Year.
This year specifically, I mean, I think that's one thing that COVID was crazy, right? Like we had Logan Paul, we had Dubsy, and the Illustrator sale and all of that, and things just absolutely exploded. But that was something people said couldn't be replicable. Like there's no way it was going to happen again. And this year this past, I'd say probably 6 months, there's cards that, like you said, maybe it's at a Zion Prism, but it's like this card is $40 and it's selling for $500, $1,000. Like what happened? Who's buying this?
It's not as bad though. I agree with you, but like, was it 2 years ago? I'm trying to remember, especially in Japan, there was this bubble and it was just like, I mean, it was 30, typically a $30, $35 card was trading for like $200, $300. Yeah. And it was just like clearly like the old tulip bubble case study. I mean, it's what it was. And but anyway, I don't think we're there right now. I think we're clearly in like a upswing, but it feels like, and I'm more of a sports card collector, that there's way more like true collectors and hobbyists this time around. And like, you don't see as many like, why the hell is that card trading for that high? Like you're seeing upswings like, Wimby and these rookies, But like, remember like Mac Jones's rookie card, 1 of 1, sold for $100,000 and he never even played an NFL game. Like,
yeah, that's great.
yeah, you don't see that right now.
Well, I know that one thing that, people have talked about, at least in the Pokemon space, is there's, Pokemon has been one of those things, I think even for you guys, when it comes to volume, it can be a very, very consistent interest. I mean, demand, supply. I mean, it's been actually amazing to watch. I mean, I've done this and been involved in this hobby for, obviously as a kid, but kind of back in a little bit more serious, 7-8 years, something like that. So I've seen enough kind of ups and downs. But one thing that, I've always found interesting is it's mainly been Pokemon people. Maybe some sneakerheads come in for a little bit, like during COVID, right? But it seems like this time around, especially with the way that, my friends who have distribution and get allocations, stuff like that, there's a lot more sports collectors and sports sellers and things like that have moved into Pokemon, mainly because they see they can't ignore it anymore, right? Like they don't know what this yellow mouse is that's shooting electricity. But that's been one thing that's been a little bit different on this side. So I do think there's a lot more like collectors and genuine interest in both, sports and Pokemon. But that is one thing that's a little bit, I think people have kind of had slight whiplash. Like they're like, wait, my allocations are half of what I've been getting. Like, where's all this going? And the people who have been buying sports cards from distributors, now they're buying a lot of Pokemon. So that's been a little bit of shift, at least in our market, that people have talked about, that, I've found interesting. And I've seen it true.
I mean, half of the cards we graded in January, I think, were Pokemon cards.
Oh my gosh, really? No joke.
I think it was but like, it's a huge number. I mean, it was probably high 30% year prior to that. Now it's going to go down. That we'll see with the 30-year anniversary next year and all that. But like, I bet
that's been Rivals in May. I bet you guys get.
I was going to say second half. I bet you it'll slow down after Rivals, but I think you're going to see. Typically it's like 35-40%, and it's like as high as 50% right now, or was.
I mean, it's amazing to see the growth. I think that grading, especially, just is such a, when I got back in, I thought it was so cool that you could put something in plastic and have a number on it, like to tell you the condition. I had never graded before 2017, and I graded my childhood collection. Was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, I love doing this.
I love it. I mean, we're seeing like in the drop-off events we do, the kids, they're kids back then. They're 30 something now. They come in with their childhood binders, first edition sets, and it's fun to see it. I'm not a Pokemon expert by any means, but it's fun to see the stuff come in.
Especially the historical stuff is always enjoyable. There's a story behind it. It was hard to acquire. It was, you had to be at a Japanese train station in 1997 or something like that. I mean,
I know more about Magic the Gathering. I collect that too. And like you see these sets, like heavily played sets, come in. The original, like a black border set or alpha beta set will be like completely torn to pieces around the edges and has a lot of character to it. I love seeing those kind of sets.
Magic's a hard one. Vintage Magic's a hard one because it was meant to be played, and people were thinking like,
I'm
going to keep the condition.
You actually see premiums on some of them. Like a PSA 3 or 4 is, desirable because
which in trading cards isn't too often.
Yeah, it's the opposite in sports cards. Yeah.
Right. Well, one thing, so I usually wait, guys, and if you guys have any more questions for Nat or anything, feel free to keep dropping them. Usually we spend about the last 15, 20 minutes doing that. But there was one member question I wanted to ask. It kind of relates to, you guys as far as grading and scaling, kind of handling these submissions. Josh, the Green Shiz Collectibles, I said, question, in April 2021, PSA announced the acquisition of Geniment dipping your toes in AI. How is Geniment helping PSA today? And do you see the future of PSA grading ever going full AI grading like other, I think you meant companies?
Yeah, so we didn't talk about this publicly, but have you used our app lately by chance?
Yeah.
Okay, you know the scanning feature where it like IDs the card? So that actually was from the team that built that. It's the Geniment team. So
how cool.
Yeah. So, we are really happy. I mean, I'm like, I think I use that 20 times a day now to ID cards. You can scan a raw card, a graded card, whatever. It pretty much, I don't think I've had a single one that it's like it didn't get it right, which is crazy.
From what I've used, it's pretty accurate, and I've scanned like a bunch of different things. I've tried to take like bad ones, right? Like
it's kind of crooked parallels and variations. I mean, it's like it's wildly cool. But anyway, so that was the Geniment team. So we're focusing mostly right now on card identification, which is actually, people probably don't appreciate it, but like it takes just as long as grading a card, sometimes longer. So as far as turnaround times and people care about what the label says just as much as the grade, by the way, which they should. Like, is the card a shadowless or not, or whatever. Like, you need to get it right. And it's one of our values. And so that's how our focus has been maybe in the last year or so, is card identification. We had a huge breakthrough with the technology and released it into the public facing app. We're using it internally as well. And then as far as AI grading, that's the next kind of frontier. We've actually already been doing two things as part of the Gentleman team as well. One is counterfeit detection. So we actually do use software to detect fake cards. We have a pretty large database of images and actually still the physical cards, because we buy a lot of fake cards, believe it or not, off the open market.
Actually kind of smart to have it just ready.
Yeah, thousands, probably tens of thousands. And when people get fake cards graded, we actually ask many of them, hey, would you like to donate the card to our counterfeit library? And so we have this giant collection of photos and physical cards. And so we can run software, because we take images of every card. You can actually run, a compare against like golden, this card is real because a grader, multiple times over confirmed its authenticity. And, here's a new card that just came in, compare, make sure they're the same. It's actually really complicated, because if the card is like slightly off centered, typical AI would be like, well, those are two different cards. Mm-hmm. So you have to know what to compare against each other. And then the second thing is centering. So we actually have been running in the background a automated centering measurement software, where it literally says on the grader screen, this card cannot be a 10 because of the centering, left, right, top, bottom, front, back, whatever it is. And it calculates everything for them, which is a really cool thing for both speed. And it's pretty rare that centering, that an off-centered card will go out in a grade that it doesn't deserve. It could happen, but it's rare. But having that safety net for the grading team has been helpful. We've turned it off internally to test it. So for example, Pokemon, it's hard on the front, it's easier on the back. Mini sports cards like this one I'm just happen to have in front of me has no borders. So there's a lot of complexity to it, mm-hmm. Logo positioning and all, But anyway, those are the two areas we're started with AI grading, and we have a really cool project I won't talk too much about, but it's a little further down that path that we're piloting internally. But to be clear, I don't believe in fully automated grading. The holding a card in your hand and inspecting it with an expert, I think they should be tech assisted, but I don't think they should be tech replaced is it's too difficult to fully evaluate a card using a computer, especially with the surface of the card. So
I was going to say, well, I think that, people sometimes initially think like, yeah, AI grading, that'll be perfect. There's no, human error. We want to avoid that. But we've already seen with fully AI models that that's not the case. Everything misses something right now. Like the technology is not even 100% there to completely replace people. But I love keeping humans in business. So
we start with, what does the customer want? The customer wants a highly accurate grade that someone stands behind. And like, I just don't trust computers enough. And I'm a software human to, I've been around this stuff. Tech assisted is the way to go. And I think you actually will have much better quality than and sure, it may be more expensive, but that's not the customer wants, like I said, the best grade, the most, trusted opinion they're paying their money for. And I fully believe the best answer is, a tech assisted human expert. And so that's what we're doing.
Well, with the centering tool that you talked about, did I hear you right? Like you guys are more like beta testing that at the moment? I mean, is that being used like more? Okay.
Oh, no, gotcha. It's like we have an active team working on it, using it internally, but the whole grading team is not using it universally in all of our offices. We have 3 grading offices where, certain cards, like bordered cards, like this card, would,
right.
We can't roll it out to 100% of cards because,
there's no center border to look for.
Yeah, you can. We have models though that, you can figure it out, like based on the logo placement and like historical data and comparing it to what the graders have said. But it's not, cards are funny because they're there's an edge case, a lot of cards, and people are like, oh, it's an edge case. Yeah. But here's a good stat for you. 10% of the cards that we see each day, we've never seen before. So there's no image, that you can be like, oh, I've seen this card. Therefore, the centering should look like this. Like we see, there's so many SKUs and unique cards out there, which is one of the beautiful things of cards. There's always a new set to collect, whatever. That every day we're reacting to things we haven't seen, and that's where the human experts really come in. Like, is this a error card, or is this a new variation, or is this truly a one of one? Is it there's a lot of research that has to go into it. So there's just the edge cases add up to like a normal day where it's like, oh, like a 10th of your day is just like, what the hell is this card?
New stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Is the corner supposed to look like this? Magic the Gathering Alpha cards have a very unique cut, as a good example. So
one thing, especially talking about, seeing stuff you guys have never seen before. I mean, one of the things I did want to ask about, because I think PSA has done a fairly good job at doing this, but in Pokemon, we very in the recent past, we've seen like the alpha playtest cards that came out. Like these things have never existed before, right? These are brand new and they're real. Okay,
great example.
Yeah. So I guess kind of a two-parter for you guys. I guess what kind of process do you go about as far as like being able to authenticate something like that specific type of situation where it's not necessarily like a set card, it's basically a maybe an employee given or some special circumstance.
You mean printed from a computer a year ago?
Yes, yeah. Or a 7-Eleven printer card.
Yeah,
so exactly.
So our process thankfully was in place and worked. Like I saw these cards, they were submitted to us. I don't remember when, but I mean, this would have been within the past year. And
so they did actually submit.
Oh yeah, we had dozens of them. I think it was almost like a full set, like over 100 and 160. I forget. I mean, it was like a lot of them. And they were submitted to us. We have a pod basically per type of card that are experts in their own way. So, we have like a vintage card, sports card, mostly pod. We have a 90s basketball, 90s cards. There's 2 or 3 guys and girls who are like, really, that's all they know. And then we have Pokemon and then, so there's these pods, right? And the experts, we have more than one. So, for each of these categories, Pokemon is understandably probably I would surmise, like our deepest, like we have the most, I would say the most investment going towards understanding authenticity with Pokemon because there's so many high-end cards and history and, it's just really complicated. And we have the same thing for autographs and whatever. But yeah, those cards came in and honestly, one of our measures is if this card came in, it could be real, but if it were submitted a year from now, how would we know it's the same? How would we know it's real? You can't rely just on provenance. And, the submitter was like, wow, these cards came from this person and that person knew this person. And you can never, we're not in the business of grading stories. Is that?
I like that a lot.
You know what I mean? And like, that's basically what these cards were. They were, don't ignore the fact that they're computer paper mounted on a thicker piece of cardboard. They came from this person. That's not what we do. And our opinion was they could be recreated and we would not be able to tell the difference. And for that reason alone, we weren't making the judgment that these in front of us were fake. We were worried that the next time these were submitted, we wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah.
And that's
I think that's really a smart way to do it. Yeah.
Well, that's our Pokemon team basically was like, they knew like everything about these cards and they're in the social world, the Reddit communities, Discord, like they're in the mix on this stuff. And I don't think it was like I'm not saying this in a bad way. Like, I don't think it was like some genius thing on their part. It was so obvious. Like, these things just, in hindsight, it's they obviously did the research, but I'm really happy with what they decided because I think, unfortunately, the hobby, I think that really shook people. We probably lost some trust, not just, the whole industry. It's not good. The fact that we didn't grade them, I'm happy about, but the fact that those ended up getting out and transacted on like pretty major auction platforms is really sad.
Well, talk about saving you guys a huge headache that other companies are going through. I can't even imagine.
I mean, in general, PSA does not really grade proofs and prototypes. Like in general, we never numerically grade them. If we ever grade them, it has to be like ironclad, authentic only. Like, like I was saying before, you have to know they're real by the objective card itself, not through any other. Yeah. So
not grading stories. I'm gonna take that now.
Yeah, I mean,
I love that.
I mean, that's what that was. I mean, it was like this is the other thing I learned. Joe Orlando taught me this. Anytime a card comes with a story, it's probably a fake card.
Yeah, they thought about that for a while.
Like, well, let me tell you, there's an essay as to why this card is real. Here's who's on blah, blah, blah. Anytime you have to do that, it's probably a bad thing. And it's not just a card. It could be a piece of memorabilia or whatever. It's just.
No, it's a good way to look at it. And, I guess, kind of one of my, because I want to get to our chat questions here in a couple of minutes, but, one thing too with like autograph cards, because I know that is something that has been, it seems like, maybe for the last year or something like that, there's been a huge amount of forgeries submitted to all grading companies and a lot. I mean, they're getting really good. I mean, I've got friends who are really, really able to tell the difference and, your faux autos and your actual real autos. And they're like, yeah, because this pin, they missed the tail, they missed this little tip.
Yeah.
How, I guess, have you guys taken any steps in the last year to kind of put a hammer down on that a little bit? Because I don't see a lot of grading companies talk too much about like autos and sketches and stuff, at least when it comes to Pokemon, like, hey, we're working on it. But like, is there anything specific that
we hired who we believe to be one of the top 1, 2, or 3 experts in Pokemon creator / artist, autographs and sketches. He's, someone we trust immensely in that department. And we have a whole team of autograph authenticators under the PSA DNA division. Mm-hmm. This person in particular is exclusively focused on TCG cards, autographs and sketches. And yeah, I mean, we've gotten much more conservative and knowledgeable since his hiring, and not just his. We also have some advisors and consultants that we've added to the roster that, when we see one of those edge cases, we flip it their way and get second, third, fourth opinions. The problem is so, autograph forgers, counterfeiters, they go where the money is. And historically, the money is in like Mickey Mantle and Michael Jordan. And like, believe it or not, like over half of the Jordan and Mantle autographs that are submitted to PSA are deemed to be fake by our expert team. Pokemon, because the cards and the signed cards are becoming more and more valuable, those forgers are now saying, oh,
swapping over.
Yeah, they're like, hey, here's an opportunity. They go where the money is. And now that Pokemon is a real industry and has, a single card can be tens of thousands of dollars if signed, they're taking their talents to that, category. And so it's only going to get worse, just because the money's growing.
Right.
I mean, you see this like with Chris Rush and Magic, and Black Lotus, and the autograph signed TCG cards are going to be very popular going forward.
With Pokemon, I mean, the joke is you can take a $15 card, but if it's got a sketch on it, it's like $500. So I mean, the entry is so easy. Yeah.
Same in sports. And unfortunately, just like in sports, you have bad actors who are also, originally involved in the creation. So, they'll say this is real. Oh yeah, that's my autograph. But like, you see this in sports. You see guys who have ghost signers. Mm-hmm. Their brother or cousin is signing the cards for them. Like we're fighting this stuff all the time, and you see the same thing in Pokemon.
And I don't expect ever a concrete answer of here's how we stop this cult. Like I don't see that because at that point you can only keep up.
You just try and stay ahead. That's all it is.
Yeah,
we'll make mistakes. Our goal is to make as few of them as possible, if not zero. But the fact remains: if you don't witness the autograph, you can. And if you're judging it after the fact, it's hard. And
it's got a great story with it when they give it to you. So
yes.
One thing I do want to touch on, because I know I do want to get. I was going to jump to chat questions, but I did want to say this. Basically, just a comment, feedback on this, and also a question. PSA Magazine. I will jump on a limb here and say that it has kind of become like my Nintendo power now. Nice. I never cared about magazines. I never read them really. I think I would get like a Heritage one randomly, or Beckett somehow would find my address and send me something. But PSA Magazine, the team who is doing that, you guys are killing it when it comes to that. I mean, I actually sit there and read and go through
Do
all
you
the
have the
cards.
TCG one, I assume?
The TCG one, yeah. So it's amazing. Like I think you guys have knocked it out of the park when it comes to that. I love the variant covers. I love partnering with the cards that are inside of there. I think you guys are absolutely hitting it out of the park across the board on these magazines for us.
Yeah, the team's doing a great job.
They're really good. One thing I did want to ask about, because I actually, you guys did I think it was like an Instagram live or something. My question got asked about this, about magazine grading. And I know it's supposed to come, I believe, later this year. I think Q3 maybe is what I read. Is that still on course? I guess, what does that look like, I guess, for 2025 for us?
Yeah. Here,
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, I got one of them right here.
Because it's comics and magazines, and I think
so we're launching. This is the comic. I don't know if you can see it, but
a little bit.
Yeah, so like this holder, basically, we've been in the lab on for probably 2 years now, and we've basically, honestly, but probably overkill, invested in security and safety of the book inside the holder. UV protection, all the things that you value. Again, probably overkill, but just really making sure the holder is great. And so we're very comfortable with where that is now. We're on I don't know how many iterations, but a lot of iterations. And so we're launching comics first. And then we're going to do magazines. Well, actually, we're going to have both, but we're going to magazines. They'll all be within both will be within a couple month period in this summer.
Okay.
And we're also going to be doing, similar to the Pokemon conversation, signed magazines in particular, and comics are very popular. And so the dual grade concept, we're also trying to fast follow as well. So we're excited about it.
I'm super pumped. I think it was, because I love the idea of when Becky started grading mangas and stuff, I was like, oh, cool. Like, people are starting to get into this type of print. And then when you guys talked about comics and magazines, I was like, perfect. Like, this is, I mean, you guys already have Lotto with grading, games and, CDs and stuff like that. So it's really cool to see. I'm super excited for it. And honestly, I think it was I don't know if this was purposeful. I would assume someone in marketing probably had this cross their mind, but being able to generate so much hype and enjoyment around your guys' magazine, and then being able to launch magazine grading is fantastic. I love the timing of it, because as somebody who's not really into magazines, you guys put me on those, in my adult life now.
Yeah,
I actually sit down and read them, which is so cool.
I got it's too far away, but I see it in my office. Someone sent me a Luka Doncic signed one of our PSA sports magazines.
Mm-hmm.
Where he was on the cover. Someone got Michael Jordan to sign one of the PSA magazines with Jordan on the cover.
Did they really? Because he doesn't normally like to sign stuff.
I know, but so cool. But and the variants, I bought on eBay the one of one Tiger Woods cover for last year. People, the secondary market on the variants is really fun to watch. But magazine grading, we're seeing a lot of it. I mean, we get a lot of signed magazines already for DNA, just for autograph authentication, and we return them uncapsulated, not encapsulated. So we're trying to, get out as quickly as we can so that we can offer the encapsulation service for those as well. We're excited.
Yeah, no, I'm pumped. Well, I want to go to chat questions. We'll sort of, I know we've got a little over 10 minutes, so we'll kind of rapid fire these and go from, I guess we'll go top to bottom, but I did have one more member question I did want to read. Like I said, guys, if you're a member of the channel, I put a post up before we go live on these streams where you can ask questions and I get them answered for you. I'm not surprised this question came up, but Lurkin Lowry, he asked, has your grading scale become stricter? He said he's found PSA 10s to be a lot harder to achieve when submitting recently. I know that you guys have the centering adjustment, but that wasn't necessarily changing standards from, I think, what you said. But has anything changed with regard to how PSA is grading right now? Are you guys harsher?
No, we haven't. There's been no instruction to get tighter or do anything like that. It's the grading, the centering thing was an updating language, but they were already operating that way for 20 years. You know, way back in the day, you maybe, you know, 60-40 could maybe get by for a 10, for example. And the language was such that it, you know, captured the fact that, you know, 25 years ago, maybe a 60-40 could get you a 10, but 55-45 was the standard for, you know, 20 plus years. So no, there's no change. I mean, people blame PSA for everything, you know, and it's fine. But like, you know, I'll give you an example, like Prism this year, the QA of the, you know, in basketball and football is, you know, the cards were not printed as well as they were last year. So the gem rates dropped drastically. The gem rates for Prism basketball last year were like 70-80%. And everybody expected that this year. And it's like, you know, half that, but the cards are not as good. So
yeah, that's PSA's fault though.
Yeah, no, but like Pokemon, you know, yeah, exactly. But like, you know, we're very sensitive to it. It's good feedback. We like hearing it. You know, we want to be as consistent as possible. There's been no grading scale change. I think, you know, people want every card in their order to always get a 10. So when it's not, we hear about it and it's fine. But no, there's been no change.
We need our 90% gem rates immediately.
Right.
Katie Lowen said, not sure if any questions we've taken. Yeah. So will you guys ever grade booster boxes?
I would love to. We've been working on a holder for boxes in general, you know, for 4 or 5 years. We just have not been able to figure out a way to safely store these things, like, because, you know, they bang around, you ship them. So we do boxes with WADA, which is the, you know, video game. They're like blister boxes. The issue with trading cards is the boxes, like video games, are mostly standardized sizing, especially in sports. I mean, look, let me show you this. Like, I'm just looking at it right now. Like, these are a bunch of card boxes. Like, look at the sizing. Like, this is just 4 random boxes on my shelf. Like,
you see one huge cube that anything fits in, and you're good.
Right. Like, there's no the uniform. There's very little uniformity in box sizes. Yeah, obviously booster boxes are similar, but, you know, when you're comparing just Pokemon booster boxes, but you know, we need a solution that fits all cards. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna get there, honestly. I would love to. I collect boxes are one of the things I collect. Not Pokemon booster boxes, but I collect sports boxes to you know, to the max, and I would love more than to have them encapsulated.
Yeah, no, it's a good answer.
Yeah,
Ivy. So she owns a LGS called Trading Card Garage in Las Vegas. She said, as a shop, it would be nice to have a pre-made PSA training kit for employees. I created one, and it works great. My team is able to buy, pre-grade, and assist customers better.
That's awesome. We are working on a PSA submission kit, which has the things you need to submit cards for grading. It's going to be really cool. I agree, though, we should probably take that to the next level, you know, and include things like loop and, you know, a centering ruler and like all sorts of stuff in it for filtering out cards, you know, microfiber for fingerprints and stuff like that. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, we're working on a submission kit right now because we have a lot of, like, what's the right word for, like, first time submitters, I guess the best way to describe it. And like, they don't even know what a card saver or semi-rigid is, you know, and I think, like, someone told me it's 30-40% of the cards that are sent to us are sent in like non-conforming cases. So like top loaders, one touches, people ship us cards in Ziploc bags. Like, yeah. So there's a lot of, you know, once you grade, you're like, oh, like card savers, you know, you get it. But, you know, like your first, second time, you're like, like whatever the card shop put it in or whatever, however I found it, you know, is how much.
Yeah, the sandwich bag. Just
like we the craziest stuff.
I love it.
So shoe boxes filled with raw cards. Yeah.
So Def Drew said, hey, Nat, how's the GameStop collab been going? Is it living up to expectations? Curious if submissions through them have shook up operations at all. And you're a unique person to ask this to because you're on the board for GameStop and obviously you run PSA. So how's it been going? It's
been great. PSA and GameStop have a wonderful partnership in that if you're a submitter or collector, you can walk into any GameStop that supports PSA grading. Many do, most do, I think. Give your cards to a GameStop employee. They will submit them to PSA, batch them together with everybody else in the last few days that submitted cards, send them to PSA. We grade them, we ship them back to the store, and you get a notification from GameStop to go to the store and pick up your cards. No shipping on your part. Obviously, the card is shipped from the location to us and back, but it's like a very simple way of getting your stuff graded. It's been wonderful. I mean, we've seen so many new submitters to enter grading, because one of the biggest things we hear from folks is submission forms are hard and I don't like shipping things. So you can go to GameStop and like both of those things are taken care of for you, because you literally just hand the cards and they take a picture of them and just put them in a box. You don't have to type in what card is this. You don't have to spec the card. You can just kind of just hand the cards and they'll submit them. So
That's nice.
It's been really nice. Yeah, we're getting a lot of cards per day. It certainly has contributed to our demand spike, but not the primary reason. The primary reason is the general, like Prismatic Evolutions, like that, just the general release of cards.
The timing of the year with the releases. Because I know you guys just launch instant offers as well. So like once your card's graded, you can immediately get an offer for whatever that amount may be. I guess one kind of piggyback off of that, and is that GameStop buying inventory? Is that just you guys buying inventory? Like, no, where does that come from exactly? We
have a network of dealers that have needs to buy inventory. Think of like big card shops, repackers, big dealers that are on eBay, and I mean, there's folks that are in the business of buying graded cards for their inventory.
Mm-hmm. They're probably going to buy it anyway, but it's like, hey, can we do it in the beginning?
Efficient to do it through this program, because we have 10,000 people using the vault on a daily basis. I think 11,000. We've got 180,000 people submitting cards to PSA on an annual basis. We just have a huge group of people that have their cards with us, either in the vault or grading. And, it's just more efficient to put your offer in front of that group of people than going to a card show with a briefcase full of cash.
Yeah.
Which they're still doing, but then that's totally fine. It's just super efficient. We're just trying to help our dealers who want PSA created cards for their showcases, for their online stores, for their repacks, for whatever, get cards in an efficient manner. And it's great for our submitters and vault customers, as you described, because you can just log into your vault and, oh, these 17 cards have offers. The offers are pretty fair. Great. Net of fees. I'm like, well, there's no fees technically, but net of fees, if you were to sell it elsewhere, say at a card show, you might take a discount as well. You kind of, net out more positive, and it's instant. Like you get the deposit shows up in your bank account within a day. It's going to be within like a few seconds, hopefully in the near future.
Well, it's nice, especially on, some of these, I mean, people who sent in, months ago, if they've seen a huge spike and they pulled the card themselves, they didn't buy it secondary. They're like, yeah, I'll take, whatever it is, 70-75%. I was going to do that anyway, but now I don't have to pay for shipping and I can get it immediately. I mean, I could see the convenience of it.
It's instantly removed from your vault, shows up in your sold tab. It's just really slick.
Yeah,
I use it a lot.
Yeah. It's a very cool.
Just wait until it launches on grading. It's going to be so cool. So you're going to get your order back so forget the vault. You get your order back from PSA. Hey, congrats. You got 17 cards. They got a 10. 9 of them have offers totaling $238. If you accept all these offers, you're going to get more money than your grading fees on the whole order, not just the cards you sold.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually get paid to submit cards. And then you don't have to mess around with actually taking them to shows or whatever you would do.
Waiting for them to come back. Yeah, no, I love the convenience. And again, you guys have always, it makes sense why you're kind of the market leader at this point. Not kind of, you are the market leader at this point, because I mean, you guys are constantly putting out new features, new things, whether it be the app or these processes and operations. It's just amazing to watch. So I know that we're coming up on time now. Last question that I'll take from chat on here. I think I just saw it. There it is. Chaos Emperor said, when did the new cases roll out to the TCG? I've randomly got cards encapsulated in those cases.
I don't know when. Yeah, so we have we have all these internal acronyms and code names for these cases that I won't bore you with, but we've been tinkering with the cases since I got here, trying to increase the UV protection and sturdiness, and just general aesthetics, like, resistance, scratch resistancy and waterproofness and like all the stuff. There's like 7 or 8 things that we test and have a lab for. Shaking, like, we have these tables that shake cards for days and upon end to make sure the cards don't get damaged as they potentially move, all sorts of stuff. The Pokemon cards, believe it or not, I think most people probably know this, they're slightly smaller than sports cards. So you can't put a Pokemon card in a sports case because
it'll shake.
And shaking is not actually, a little movement's okay for cards because it means it's not sticking. Our cases, especially the new ones, it's really hard for a card to stick anyway, but just, you don't want them banging against the rails of these slabs if you can avoid it. And so, yeah, I don't know when the TCG, we have a unique case. It's the same outer dimensions, X, Y, and Z, as we say, of the outer case is exactly the same as the sports cards. The inner rails are tighter to fit the Pokemon card more tightly. So, but I'm not sure when we will fully roll out those new. They're amazing. Like I get, they're 20% heavier.
Yeah, so, I remember you guys saying they were heavier.
They're heavier. It's because the plastic is thicker or like more dense, and it's great for UV protection. So, yeah, I mean, our plan is to have that for every card we grade at all times. Is this, but we take new cases really seriously as far as testing and, just making sure it's and the process works. Meaning like our entire operational team with sealing and grading can be. Yeah, someone just asked about Japan. Yes, Japan. If you want the high-end cases, ship your cards.
Yeah,
but that's an example. So we actually manufacture our cases in Japan for Japan.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's may come as no surprise to people, but Japan manufacturing is
it's made better.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, Nat, I know we've come up on time. I so appreciate you coming on and talking through all this stuff. I know that you guys have had so many updates and just things that you're doing, and for you to be able to take the time and kind of talk directly with a meeting like this is so appreciated. And I guess guys, just Nat Turner Cards on Instagram. You don't have a YouTube channel, but I know you're around YouTube. But Instagram is definitely seeing Nat post some of the boxes and cards that he goes through is pretty fun. So Nat, anything you want to leave the people with, I guess, before we
No,
wrap
I'm
up?
good, man. We've covered everything.
Yeah. Cool. Well, perfect. Well, guys, thank you so much, chat. And we'll be back on May 1st, which I think is a Wednesday. Check my calendar. We'll be back with Dave Person for our next episode, guys. So again, thank you guys so much. And appreciate you.